Alrighty, good morning everybody. It is Monday, September 25th, 2023. Let's go ahead and get started here. We are pushing into the last week of September and seeing exactly what we talked about for this month, which is a strong sell-off. We're going to go ahead and do a quick review for Friday, and then we'll get into the pre-market for this morning. So if you remember back to Friday morning, we didn't have a strong alignment of signals, right? What we had was a potential for a bullish divergence on the daily, right? We saw this from the overnight low. We were breaking the low of that major swing on price, but RVI was still about the same, maybe a little bit higher. So we had the potential there for a bullish divergence on the daily on Friday morning. The 4-hour wasn't giving us any signals, and then the hourly did have just a little bit of a bullish signal from the low of the day before going into Friday morning. So we had some clues that maybe there would be an attempt by the bulls to bounce, but we did say we were in the context of a bearish market and ultimately expected there to be resistance at one of these levels that we were looking at for a push lower. So we had some clues for a bounce, but it was kind of a weak argument, right? So let's look and see what ended up happening here. I'm going to scroll back to the open for Friday on our shortest time frame here and take a look what happened. Now, the most amazing thing about Friday is that the high of the day was our scaffolding level, one tick off from the high of the day, and then the market sold off from there. So we got a bullish push out of the open, came all the way up into our expected resistance level, touched it, broke it by a tick, and then sold off all the way down to the low of the day, which was our next scaffolding level below here around that 43.63 area. Again, it broke it by just a couple ticks and then bounced, and we got the biggest bullish rotation of the day. And then right at the end of the day, they brought it down below that scaffolding level and kind of petered out and went sideways. So the high of the day was our scaffolding nearly to the tick, and then the low of the day for the biggest bullish rotation was our next scaffolding level. So pretty impressive if you ask me. These levels were on here for at least a week before, and they ended up highlighting the high and the low of Friday. Now, if we look at what happened coming out of the open here, we held our scaffolding here for a couple bounces. The bears brought it just below, and then they held it above again. So if you look at this price action right around this scaffolding that we have on the charts here, held it nearly to the tick for multiple bounces, got down below it, and then held the back end for this bearish attempt, right? Then came down, held it below it for this bearish attempt, but didn't go anywhere. And then we got above it and then held it nearly to the tick for, again, this next attempt by the bulls to push higher. And then we got this breakout, to the upside, and then came right into our scaffolding that we just talked about, right? And there was also a major retracement level here around 43.9675. So for all intents and purposes, let me look back here really quickly to make sure I don't misspeak. So this major retracement right here was the retracement we held the day before I left for Sedona. That scene of the crime where the market made a huge bounce for the bulls and pushed way higher after the sell-off. Here, let's look at it so you guys have an idea of what I'm talking about here. If we go all the way back to the major rotation, this was the day before I left for Sedona, the last Friday that I was with you guys, and we talked about everything lining up for the bulls here. That was that major retracement. We bounced. We got this 200, 300, 400 point bounce right into our next scaffolding, by the way. And then we failed here for the beginning of September. There's September 1st, the high of September 1st. And then we've got this huge sell-off and doing exactly what you would expect historically for the month of September. And we came all the way down and then got below the scene of the crime there, right where that major retracement was, and then came up from the bottom end and tagged it here to begin our continued sell-off. So that's what that retracement is there that you see there. That's right where we got the big major rotation months ago for the bulls. and then we got down below it here. And interestingly enough, on Friday, held it nearly to the tick within a point or two and continued the sell-off. But more sexy, the fact that our scaffolding was actually right at the high. So then we got our pullback. There was a beautiful opportunity here to buy the VWAP for a 10-point bounce, just over 10. It was like 11, 12-point bounce. So great opportunity there, especially if you did have that bullish bias. You would have noticed we came up. We failed off our, hey, what happened to that level? Did I just delete it? We came all the way up to our scaffolding and pulled back. That was your opportunity to jump in for that bullish side of things, and you would have grabbed, again, 11, 12 points. And then the market began its rally lower. I'm going to have to redraw that on there. I don't know what I just did. I don't know how that disappeared. But we sold off, and then look what happened here. Got below the holy orange power level and our second scaffolding level here and used it as a major resistance to continue selling off. And then the market held the back end of the 200 all the way down. Multiple opportunities to sell the back end of the 200 here for the bearish side of things. Once we started breaking below VWAP and getting below the Hopel and staying below the 200 here, great short opportunities. And then again, at the end of the day, or towards the end of the day, we started to hold nearly to the tick off that scaffolding level. So pretty sexy stuff. And then again, at the end of the day, we just kind of went sideways, and there were some pretty nice holds off the fast moving average, but at the end of the day, they're just a little bit choppy. So that brings us into this morning. And if you notice in the overnight session, what happened? We held the back end of VWAP there for the pullback. Then we got through it and held the top end of it to the tick for this bullish push in the overnight session in our Sunday Globex. And then what was the high of Globex? Our scaffolding level. It broke it by, 3 ticks, maybe a point. And now we've been in this sell-off ever since. And there you go. There's that beautiful textbook setup right off the 200 again. To be on the bearish side, you had 2 opportunities here in the pre-market right now to get short off there. And now here we are coming down to our next scaffolding, which we haven't tested just yet in this contract, 43.36. Right, so in my opinion, incredible opportunities here with nearly zero risk for moves that push 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 points. So that wraps up our review. Let's jump into our pre-market for this morning, go up to the higher time frames.